the scenes for a few seconds. All right, so it says we've got it live streamed. It gives Kristen a few seconds to get us up and running on the web page. All righty, Kristen, I wasn't watching. I'm sorry. Did you give me the high sign? Nope, not yet.
And Jeff, are you going to screen share?
I will do that. Yes.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful for me. That way, I'm not trying to juggle two screens.
Yep.
I'm just setting this up now, Charmaine, and I was thinking, oh wait, I don't have to do that.
All right. So all of you should be looking at my screen now. There's the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to get it so I can see everyone so that I'll be able to see how everyone is voting.
Yep.
For some reason, when you screen share, I can't see everyone.
If you go to the top right of your screen where you're looking at the cameras, I see a little icon that has little, it's got 9 little squares. You can either see 1 square, 2 squares, or 9 squares.
Yeah.
And if you click the 9 squares and then open that window up a little bit bigger, grab it in the bottom left or the bottom right of that window that you're looking at with the people in it, you should be able to see everybody's camera.
Now, it just gives me, let's see, I've got 6 windows.
Okay, maybe, you know what, you've got 6 is probably the number of people that we have on camera right now. Is that just?
I can't see her meet.
Can you see her meet now?
No.
Okay.
Not unless
That's all I can see. That's all I can see, Michelle, too.
Okay.
So it might be.
All right, so we'll just.
I can see everybody, so I can, if there's a question, I'll chime in.
Okay, great. Okay, so we can get going then?
Yes.
All right. So good evening, everyone. It's 6:01 p.m. and I'll call the April 11th meeting of the Bethlehem Public Library Board to order. Jeff, do we have any public participation?
Let me go check that right now, if there's anything new. Nothing for the past couple minutes. I do want to say I did receive a communication from a patron anonymously. Just talking about, I'll just read it right to you. No late fees, quotes. Please do not fall into the too clever trap because a term is mistakenly popular. Fine free is a misleading misnomer because the library patrons will still owe and be charged lost fees and damage fees. No late fees is clear and obvious. No late fees is easily understood phrase for public announcements and especially legally binding board rulings. Any no late fee exceptions like museum passes should be specified in a board motion and can be advertised by a printed asterisk in a word of mouth campaign. And then I received separately, but I believe from the same person, a flyer, just like sort of a mock-up flyer that would say starting in July 1st, 2022, Bethlehem Public Library will be late fee free, no late fees, asterisks, with the exceptions listed for museum passes and library things. Also, loss and damage fees will still be charged and due. So I think this person is expressing an interest in maybe just has a disagreement with the term fine free as opposed to late fee free. And that's the only public comment I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So the next order of business is previous meeting minutes. They are in the board packet on pages 2 through 6. If everyone has a minute to locate them, are there any corrections or amendments to the regular meeting minutes?
I just wanted to note that I feel like there's a reference in the fine section about Library of Things, and it's abbreviated as LOT, and I feel like we probably should spell it out because I had to think about it for a minute. So just that observation.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I need a motion to accept the previous meeting minutes from March 14th.
So moved.
Mary, and second?
Charmaine.
Yep, second, sorry, I realized I was muted.
Okay, all those in favor? And I can't see Harmeet.
It's unanimous. Yep.
All right, so no one's opposed, motion carries. So on page 7 now, we have minutes from a special board meeting held on March 24th. Scroll up those, short and sweet. Are there any corrections or amendments to the special meeting minutes? No, okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, Charmaine, and a second.
I'll second.
Mary. All right, all those in favor? And opposed?
And Harmeet said yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the financial report and the treasurer's report by Sherry.
Okay, well, we are currently tracking about 7% under budget, which is consistent with last year at this time. We did receive the final state aid payment for the year. So we've received all the aid on that line, and we expect to receive the final tax payment in April. If we haven't received it yet, I don't know, Tanya, maybe a little bit later this month we'll get it.
No, we haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
And because it has to go from the state to the county, to the county to the school district, from the school district to us. So it does take a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the report or any comments that they'd like to make.
Are you including questions about the warrant or?
Sure.
Okay. I just noticed that there was a payment to a Brain Fuse online, Brain Fuse online learning or something like that. And I was wondering what that payment was for.
Yep. BrainFuse is a online service that provides online testing guides, civil service exams, college entrance exams, nursing exams, and then other sort of student resources for, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, tutoring and those sorts of online resources for the public.
And that was the annual renewal fee.
Yes, it also does like a job now, like a job coaching, resume assistance, preparing for interviews, career resources, that type of stuff as well.
Thanks, Chris.
So is that like an online, so a patron can come to the library and log on? How do people access that? Or is that something for general use for patrons or?
Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, it's available under our resources section. So it's like one of our databases, and they would be able to use their library card to enter the database.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the report?
Okay.
I did want to talk a little bit about interest rates. I'm assuming now is the appropriate time as part of my stuff. I did note from TD Bank that our interest rate has increased very slightly from 0.15 to 0.16%. But I also did a little bit of research and realized that TBill rates have really gone up since the last time I looked. We can now get a a 3-month T-bill for 0.6% or a 6-month T-bill for 1%. I think that this is something that we should look into. I've actually already talked to someone at T-Bank and got some information. The process is really quite simple. We have to open up a brokerage account at T-Bank, there's no cost to that. And they would actually just transfer the funds from our savings account, our money market account, to this brokerage account and then purchase the T-bill. There is a slight sales charge for that. It's about 1 or 2 basis points, which would equal about $200. And the way it works is if we decide to buy $1 million T-bill, we need to invest $990,000, and they take those funds and buy the T-bill. And then at the end of 6 months, we get $1 million, or less a couple $100 for the fee. It would be very close to $1 million. I did a little bit of an analysis to try to show you what our cash looks like when we talk about our fund balance and how much we need to set aside for expenses and so on. So I tried to put something out here that I hope is relatively clear and easy to understand. Our fund balance currently is 3.7 million. We've been talking about that all year. I expect, we will definitely have a surplus this year when we close the books at the end of June. And I think it's going to be at least 300,000, and it's probably going to be more than that, but I'm trying to be conservative. We draw from our savings account $300,000 a month to put into our checking account to supplement the funds we have in our checking account to pay bills. So that 300,000 from April through September is 1.8 million. It's 6 months. In September, we generally get our first payment on the tax revenue. So once if we draw 1.8 million from the funds that we currently have, we'd have about 2.2 million available for investment. If we take 990,000 out of those funds to buy the T-bill and lock it up for 6 months, we're going to lock it up. And that, we can't draw out of it. If we do, there'd be penalties. And we'd still have a balance of 1.2 million after we've accounted for spending for the next 6 months. So the purpose of this illustration is to try to show you that we definitely have enough funds to do this. We probably have more than enough. We could probably invest a little bit more, but I'm trying to be conservative, and I think 1 million is probably reasonable for us to do this. We haven't done this. I don't know if we've ever done this, but certainly not since I've been here.
Not in my memory.
Not since I've been here either. So
yeah. We could invest less, but this is my recommendation. And, we'd end up with approximately $10,000 in interest, which is more than what we budgeted for the entire year for 2022, 2023.
So Sherry, you're looking for a motion from somebody to authorize that, or to authorize the finance committee?
Yeah, the finance committee, I spoke with Mary and Mark, and they are both on board with this. They think it's a good idea. I certainly wanted to put it out there for discussion. Happy to answer any questions anybody has, or get your impressions about what you think.
Sure. I was going to ask if the members of the finance committee wanted to weigh in. I mean, it sounds like they're in favor, but any nature of their discussion and anything adds anything to the discussion, I guess, from the finance committee review and consideration.
I spoke to Sherry and went through how she came up with the recommendation. I think for now, the only potential downside that I see, and I don't even want to call it a downside, is interest rates could go up on T-bills. They could also go down. Okay. I am in favor of this transaction. I'm in favor of this number. I think, as Sherry has probably already considered, once we get into this and we start having cash, ultimately, we might want to start laddering some CDs, or not CDs, some T-bills. So you wouldn't
Right.
have everything tied up. You'd have money maturing incrementally throughout the year to
Right.
take advantage of the better interest rates in T-bills than with CDs. So I think this is a great first step, and I'm thrilled that she's been watching it and brought us this recommendation.
And it is possible that interest rates on our savings accounts are going to go up. There's a sense of that, with some of the bankers that I've spoken with, but of course, nobody has a crystal ball, so we don't know for sure. But I think if we kind of spread our funds out in a couple of different ways, maybe it will hedge against, the fluctuation in rates. If interest rates go up, T-bill rates T-bill rates are usually on the low side. If interest rates go down, being locked into this for 6 months, we're in a good position to take advantage of it.
And it also, it diversifies, which is something that the comptroller likes to see. So should anything ever come about with the comptroller, they do like to see different avenues of diversification with our funds.
So I have a question. I think the first go around, so thank you, Sherry, for finding this. Wonderful. So the first go around seems pretty cut and dried, but as we go forward, if we're considering long range projects that are very expensive,
Right.
then and then I'm not sure what's involved with laddering investments, but I might be worried if we had larger amounts of money in situations that we cannot access it when we're looking at $1 million projects.
Right.
So that's the only concern I might have. And then Tanya just mentioned diversification being an important thing to have. I'm not so sure how much we usually would keep in the balance after long range project or capital projects that are very, very expensive. Do we usually keep 4 million on the sideline? It seems like we've built up this, waiting for these capital projects, and we intend to eventually spend the money.
Right.
Hard to spend the money though if we can't access it in T-bills.
Right. So that, that's a really good point, of course. And I think we'd have to watch this closely, pay attention to the dates and where we are and when, when this would come due. We'd have to have another conversation to decide, what our next step might be. At that point, we might say, okay, this is good. We grabbed, a little extra interest and we're going to put it back in the money market because we know we're going to start moving forward with maybe a design plan, and we're going to need funds readily available. We might decide to do that. We have to take everything into consideration at that point in time. What are the interest rates? What's the interest rate on the money market account? What are T-bills doing or CDs? Ideally, if we weren't talking about a capital project, I think trying to ladder these investments would make a lot of sense as we need the funds, right? So that would be, maybe having a 3-month T-bill and a 6-month T-bill. And then when the 6-month T-bill comes due, we invest in a 3-month because we're moving towards the end of the year. We need the funds. I'd have to do some analysis to try to figure out the best way to do that. But we definitely have to, be paying attention to due dates and, when we need the money, how we spend it.
And also with any capital project, with going through the education department, it's going to take a significant number of months. So it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. So we would know if we're going to put forth a capital project, we have some time for that money to mature in order to actually physically do the work, because we have so many hoops, if you will, to jump through to even get it approved.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in really quickly and just agree that basically with a 6-month time frame, given the the fund balance and the cushion in the fund balance. I think everybody, it sounds like this is a fairly non-controversial thing, but it does behoove a longer range look at what that looks like. And Michelle, to your question, just sort of historically, no, I think they're, a 50% fund balance for a 50% of the annual budget would be sort of a normal, if you were not planning a capital project for an organization like this, where if you're a nonprofit, if you were the United Way, you'd probably want a year in a fund balance, but they're nonprofits, not governments, and our income is a little bit more steady than that. And somewhere between 50% and a year seems to be where most government libraries flop around in there. So greater than a year is would be towards a special purpose only.
I share the same concern. I'm a member of the building committee. I'm not speaking for the committee, but I'm glad Michelle raised that. I'm comfortable with a 6-month timeline and this amount this time, with their expectation we will revisit the whole discussion of investing in this way after this or towards the end of the 6 month.
Right.
I think that's completely consistent with the discussions that Sherry and I had initially. I just threw it out as in the future to consider doing it. I think the one aspect of it that we haven't really decided on is how low we let our fund balance get. As a board, there'll be a point in time where we have to look at what our fund balance is and say, how much will we literally put toward capital projects and how much do we need to leave ourselves for a general surplus? And that's not a discussion for tonight, but it is something out there that the board will have to agree on. But I concur with Charmaine and Michelle about not just simply laddering to ladder for the, but we have to look at cash flow and what our plans are.
Right.
I generally support it as well, and particularly the diversification piece. But I wonder, in terms of brokerage fees, is it just transaction based, or is it an ongoing arrangement that you have through the bank, or?
It's just it's really a sales fee to purchase the
Okay.
T-bill, and there is no fee for maintaining it within the brokerage account. They just need that structure set up in order to make the purchase.
Okay. And there are no prohibitions that we're aware of that would prevent us from doing this, either as a library or.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the investments that we are allowed to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of the safest investments.
Yeah.
Right.
Controller definitely recommends T-bills and T-notes.
Great.
Okay, so Jeff, do we need to vote?
I think we'll take a motion on that.
Okay.
One last question. Is the brokerage account insured the same way that our normal accounts are? TD Bank, my understanding was the nature of our funds had to be insured in a very particular way, and it limited where we could do banking.
The investment is the T-bill, and that's backed by the U.S. government.
Okay, so there's no additional.
There's no issue with,
aspect required of the brokerage.
I think the brokerage account is just the mechanism to enable the bank to do what they need to do to make the purchase. I mean, we could go online and buy our own, but I'd kind of rather have the bank do it because, I've never done this before. And I think it's just more secure to have the bank do it. And then we can, if we have any questions or issues or whatever, we just call them and they take care of it for us.
Yep, Harmony, you're right. Our bank accounts at a bank have to be insured because there's always a possibility that a bank in excess of FDIC, they could go down and then it would have to be insured so that collateralized, so the library could recoup some of those losses. But the assumption is with these T-bills that it's backed by the full force and effect of the federal government. So.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I need a motion to accept this investment for 6 months.
So moved.
Charmaine, any second?
I second.
Mary, all those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed?
Harmeet said yes.
I can see Harmeet now.
Oh,
He's up.
great.
I think when he spoke, he came right up. All right, so motion carries.
We will also need a motion to accept the general report by the treasurer. So I will make a motion to accept the treasurer. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we done with the discussion of the treasurer's report? Sherry, did you want to present other things? I'm probably jumping the gun here.
No, I was all set. I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to ask any questions they had.
And just to clarify, are we accepting the financial report in its entirety? Correct? Not just the treasurer's report?
That's correct. It's the finance report and including the warrant and
Right.
Right, yeah, the treasurer's report, including the warrants for the payments. And I don't have the agenda in front of me. I usually cite what the page numbers are. But
Yeah,
that's my
it's-
motion to accept it.
It's, page 9 through 16.
Right. Okay, so do we have a second?
I'll second it. Sure.
All right, Charmaine, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries. So on page 17, we have the personnel report.
I'm going as fast as I can, scrolling as quickly, scroll like the wind. Okay, so on the personnel report, there are 2 positions that we're seeking to fill, both part-time library clerks, both of them for 11.67 hours per week, with the per contract amount as usual.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions or further discussion? If not, then I'll need a motion on.
I have a question. We do have other library clerks, not that I don't want to approve these, but I'm just
Yep.
asking about the job market. We have other part-time library clerks. Are we actively seeking to fill these and we're not able to, or what is this? What is the status?
No, good question. The part-time library clerks up above the ones that are 15 hours and 19 hours, those are positions that are, one of those is in the public service department and with librarians in the public services department, and we're not seeking to fill that actively right now. And the other 2 who are in circulation services, we're not seeking to fill. This is the 11.67 are the desk positions, and those are the 2s we're seeking to fill right now. The
Okay.
other 2 are more in collection maintenance and are we scale those positions much more directly based on the physical circulation of the library. So as those, as physical circulation increase, we need the people to handle the collection a little bit more, but we always need a certain number of folks on the desk, and these 2 are desk positions. So they're
Okay.
important.
So we are not having hiring problems was really what my question was. So,
In these positions, no.
okay.
Okay, that begs the question about how are we doing on the librarian position?
We have we're doing some interviews this week, likely.
Okay, so we'll need a motion on the personnel actions listed on page 17.
I move that we accept the personnel report as presented. Again, I can't see the page number, as
Sorry.
presented in the board package, page 17.
Page 17, sorry.
Okay, in a second.
I'll second.
Lisa, all those in favor? Good. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so director's report, Jeff.
Okay, get my brain on. All right, here we go. Strap in, everybody. No, I'm trying to keep it short. We are tracking, a recent and rather bothersome uptick in COVID cases in the community. Similarly, we are seeing associated COVID exposure type situations popping up with the staff more frequently than had been the case for the past couple months. Our our folks at the library tend to be a fairly good barometer of what's going on in the community at large. So I think, what we're doing is still very safe inside the library. But, I think COVID is percolating out in the community. We're handing out more test kits both to the public and the staff than I have in the past couple months, which is good to see. I want to thank the Town Emergency Management Office for always being right on the spot with us, delivering new test kits. And we also received 2 boxes of test kits from Senator Breslin's office. So I want to thank the staff over there and Senator Breslin for bringing over a couple extra boxes of those to us too. So that's helpful. Really pushing this as an active way for the staff to monitor themselves and keep themselves healthy. If there's a concern, if they wake up and they just have a sniffle and they're worried about it, why not test? The tests are available, readily available, and they're also available to the public as well. So I will be keeping as long as supply remains constant. And I believe that the town has a very adequate supply of these from what my impression is, that we will keep a good supply in the library and continue to push those out there. It seems to be a very good way to catch and stop spread in the community if you can identify it very quickly through the test kits. So seems to be working. Very pleased with that. Outside spring has sprung a little bit today. It's been a long, wet, cold spring. So maybe we're a little further behind than we would, but the guys are doing good work outside, getting the grounds ready to go. And we were able to have a program outside. We had a passel of kids out there for a story time. So it's always good to see. Seed library continues to be very popular. Of course, it's the right time of year for that. Everybody's thinking their gardens, and we had to do a fill-in order with the Hudson Valley Seed Company to fill in the most popular seeds that we have. But every year we do this, we get a little bit more, and we know a little bit more about what is that people are seeking from us.
Jeff?
Yep, absolutely.
I just wondered, so we've handed out 4,500 packets?
Yes.
Already? That's not how many we ordered. That's how many we've already handed
That's how many
out.
we've had it out. Yeah. So 516 people, they're allowed 10 each, right? So it's not everybody takes all their 10, but it's about 4,500 packets total have gone out. And that's through the, people coming in and picking their own out, and then also ordering them and then taking them through curbside pickup. And that's been this year, our added service was that we were doing both in-person pickup and ordering them through curbside, which creates an inventory challenge. But the staff is doing a great job keeping up on those and making sure that it's not that it's a problem to keep up. It's that we have to know how many packets are there when people want to order them online. So keeping track of the inventory. So that's something that IT department worked on, and the staff is working really hard to keep up on, and lots of volunteers involved. So it's a big effort by everybody, but it's it's so popular that it's definitely worth it. So
Jeff, is this Bethlehem residents only or anybody in the system?
We are not restricting it to Bethlehem residents only, just folks who come into the library.
Okay.
We did get a nice compliment from a patron about a picture book collection. We've been working to make sure that that our collections are being representative, and a patron noticed that and specifically called that out to a librarian. So I was proud of that. I think that's excellent. It is coming up on imminently on the 50th anniversary of the library. It's May of this year. That building will be officially 50 years old. Construction was started, of course, before that. This is the grand opening. A selection of pictures that were originally in the hands of Howard Geyer, who was the architect of the building, came to us through Mark Kissinger, through a friend of his, and they came to the library, and we're going to work on a set of then and now pics, sort of side by side, and put those out for the public. And I think that's going to be really great to sort of look at how the library has both changed and not changed in the intervening 50 years. So we'll do that. It's a good trip down memory lane for me. We signed a contract for the Library Speakers Consortium. This is going to deliver 2 to 3 notable author virtual programs to our community every month. Some of them are going to focus more on like a business author, but at least one of them should be a sort of a traditional fiction or mystery author as well. And this is a new service that's just opening up, and we jumped on early. We thought this would be a good fit for our public, as we always have a public who's very interested in getting a higher caliber of author in to talk to them, but have a small community room. I don't want to pay $20,000 for an author to come in for those 90 people to have an excellent time. So that's always our infinite challenge that we have with big time authors. So this should open that up. We have an option for 3 years, but we only signed on for 1 year. That way we'll know if it's successful, but I'm hoping that it will be. I know virtual programs aren't everybody's cup of tea, but I think they certainly have become a viable means of delivering programs to some folks. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see what the quality of the authors looks like for the year, and I think it's going to be good. Little bit of changes on the Colonial Acres Wi-Fi, but that's that should be expanding imminently. They just did some construction down there, so the building we housed our equipment in doesn't exist anymore. So we had to move everything and coordinate with Verizon to get the cable moved across out at that park. Just a lot of really good programs. It's for me, this past month has been sort of a reemergence of the library, not as an only transactional space. And it's not exclusive to this month, but it really has kicked up. I hope you'll notice that a lot of the programming is kicking up, the use of the library is kicking up, more children are back in the library. There's just been a lot of activity that we have not seen really for a couple of years, and it's heartening to see some of that. That layered on top of where at the same time we've got some folks who have to be out of the library, so it makes it a little bit of a challenge. But I just have to say, thank you to the staff once again for doing the yeoman's work of making sure that we maintain our services and to the public. And a lot of people of the public are not even aware that we're experiencing challenges, and that's just due to their hard work. So thanks to that. You can read through. I'm not going to read through all these programs, but just good stuff. Some outreach programs done in partnership with Bethlehem Senior Services, with the Del Mar Progress Club. That's all good. New story walk outside, and then coming up, just new programs coming forth. We have to think about outside, the Thursdays in the park. We've got 5 performers that we're doing there. We're funding the ones that are at the LMAV Park, because that's in our district. They have some events that are taking place at the Henry Hudson Park or in South Bethlehem that aren't in our district, which is great. We still support them. We know that's part of our community, but we're funding and planning the ones that are at LMAV. The Friends of the Library book sale fundraiser, and they want me to hit the fundraiser part of the book sale fundraiser. This is a fundraiser for the Friends. Saturday, May 21st and Sunday, May 22nd, with the rain date of Sunday, May 22nd, if Saturday isn't viable. And we have arranged for a couple musical performers outside at the same time. So why not come to a book sale, hang out, have some awesome music out on the green? I'm hoping for a beautiful day. Should be great. Speaking of music on the green, evenings on the green are set up. You see the list on your screen for the summer with Tuesday nights in July at 7 p.m. And then the rain date will automatically be the Wednesday following that if we have to cancel. So we do have the tent over the green, which allows for, if it's just like a mist, which we used to have to cancel for because obviously performers don't like their equipment to get wet. If they're comfortable with that, it makes it possible to do the event outside, even if in a little bit of rain. So that's great. And then, like I said, the first early literacy story time was held again on April 5th, and we had 62 participants outside. And I think that's great. That's great to see. I did add through our general liability insurance a small cyber liability policy, a $250,000 cyber liability policy. We have some work to do with the vendor to make them understand our business and exactly how our network works. They've got some questions, and we're working with Upper Hudson and the network specialists at Upper Hudson to make sure that we understand their questions, to make sure we're answering them properly. And we'll work on the higher level cyber liability policies. And then, we'll talk about the Storch Krakauer Fund later. And just very briefly, I did attend a webinar put on by the Division of Library Development and the New York State Historic Preservation Office. As our building is 50 years old now, that brings up, anytime we do a capital project, it brings up the potential for a State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, review of any project that we do going forward. It doesn't mean that that we can't do anything. It does mean that they will be taking at least a cursory look at that project. Obviously, anything that disturbs the ground has to be looked at for archaeological purposes. That's a separate look, but also through the same office.
Okay.
And then I will just highlight some numbers because I know you love them. Circulation is really getting back to where I like to see it. We were at 55,000 last month. That's really getting very close to our pre-pandemic levels for total circulation. Obviously, the year-over-year increase is 42%, looks super high. Of course it is. Last year we were much more in the depths of the pandemic at that time. At the same time, we're seeing smaller borrowed and loaned items to other libraries. That means people are finding what they want in the library. They're checking out from what they want, or finding them in our collection. Hold things in our collection. Just some really good numbers to see continued increases in wireless use and all of that. Just briefly mention electric usage. The electric cost graph, which we have in here, continues to be high, though a little less heart-shockingly high than last month. So that was nice to see. Electric costs are still up, but hopefully they're starting to mitigate a little bit as we go into the summer months. That would be good for us because we're going to be using more electricity with the air conditioning. So that is it for me.
Okay. All right, thank you. So next up, we have the U8.
I just
Go ahead,
I just had a couple comments about Jeff's report that I wanted. On the tech programs that I think are great, I feel like it would be good to make sure that some of them are offered in the evenings, because it seems like a lot of them are daytime programs. And if it's not feasible to do them in the evenings, maybe recording them and putting them online or, on social media. And then I know Kristen will probably be all over the 50-year stuff, but I think that's just a perfect social media match for engaging people, and because people love that kind of stuff. So that was all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yep.
I had a couple of questions. Jeff, on the Wi-Fi expansion,
Yes.
And I saw the word looking for grants, but will that cost money?
Yes. So the last time we looked at this at Five Rivers, obviously they put in a new outdoor classroom, and they would love to have Wi-Fi over there. We looked at how much it would cost to trench the Ethernet cable over there to expand the Wi-Fi. It was $8,000. So that is pretty expensive, and it seems eminently grantable. Like someone wants to fund this. That's not us. So I continue to pursue that. I put that in as a member item every year, just to say, hey, here's a thing. Maybe you want to give us some money for that. So I keep trying. I think we'll hit it sooner or later. And the same time also, the Elm Avenue Park, where we have a fairly extensive Wi-Fi coverage there for the pool building and then the administration building at the Elm Ave Park. That's all covered by our Wi-Fi. They would love to cover. There's some new pavilions that they would love to cover and have our Wi-Fi out there. It's just long and expensive. So we're working on that. And
would that be, in terms of searching for grants, in addition to your work on that, would Parks and Recreation, is there any other role for another agency to share that responsibility is what I'm basically asking?
I guess that would depend on how important it was to them. So, there's certainly other funding streams available, and maybe more political clout than I've got, which is not much. But I think people like the library, and I have good relationships with all of our elected officials. So I'm open to all of that.
I just, in terms of responsibility and also time and energy, it might be lovely to try to bring other people into that discussion and potential workload. So that's just one thing I want to put. And then in terms of the test kits, do patrons just come to the front desk and ask for them, and they
come right to the info desk? I have them on display. Like I'm trying to sell these. I'm selling them by hand. So going back to my retail days. So I'm getting ready. I had some success walking around just with a big box of them under my arm, handing them out to people. So I'll do whatever I have to do.
Great. All right. Thank you.
You bet.
The perfect Easter basket gift.
They are orange and white, they look kind of festive.
Yeah. I mean, on the grants for the Wi-Fi stuff, I feel like that's ground we've already been over with past expansions, and the board has kind of said the same things in terms of not really thinking it's our responsibility to be paying for that stuff. And I just want to reiterate that I fully support that position. I don't have any problem with expanding the Wi-Fi, but in terms of doing the work, I really feel like it's probably on their shoulders a little bit more than ours in terms of, if you really wanted that to happen, Town of Bethlehem, maybe this would be something you might want to look into.
Okey-doke. Any other discussion on the director's report? Okay. Next business is a UHLS report with Lisa, and she has some good news to share.
Yeah, I did forward an email that we got from Upper Hudson reporting on the state budget that finally was agreed upon. The library aid was up $5.5 million this year to 99.6 million. I don't think we see a huge chunk of that, but even more important for us is construction grant aid has been restored back to what Tim likes to call the high water mark of $34 million. So a lot of money out there to be had, and we should be sharpening our pencils right now, Jeff. Yes. So, but yeah, very good news on both of those issues. And then the only other thing I wanted to report was the Upper Hudson Board has started the racial equity training with the McLean Group, and I have been participating in that. And I'll say it's been useful and enlightening, a little difficult at times, so worthwhile for sure. So look forward to having those meetings and training when we get together in 2023, which is hard to believe, but that's it.
Doke. Does anyone have any questions for Lisa?
Thank
Okay.
you, Lisa.
So under new business, we have the Personnel Committee report.
Okay, I'll take this because I know Mark's on the road. The committee is Mark, Jeff, and me. This was raised at the last meeting about the evaluation of the director, and the committee is putting forward two timelines. One is for people to review, the trustees to review and approve the materials and time frame that we're putting forward, and then the second time frame is the actual time frame associated with the director evaluation. We're proposing that this be an annual process, and so right now we're at April. So if you just scroll back up to the top, Jeff, we're reviewing materials, looking for the board to review, comment, and then approve a final version of things. Reviewing the draft time frame, the evaluation instrument that we've given you, and the staff survey questions have not been developed yet, but part of the process would be what some people call a 360 evaluation, where staff members are afforded the opportunity to give additional information to the trustees to be considered in the evaluation process. Those questions will be forthcoming before the board. We envision only 3 or 4 of them, not an extensive questionnaire. So the feedback would be coming back to the committee by May, so we can adjust the instrument and the time frame, and then we finalize that for the June trustee meeting, and then the process begins in October, and then the evaluation process for at this end of this calendar year is completed by January 2023. So that's the time frame we have for the process of finalizing the material. The second one is, what does this look like? So in October, the evaluation instrument, which we have not finalized, you've just received it in draft, is sent to the members of the boards of trustees. The director begins developing goals for the coming year, because we felt like the evaluation should be addressing goals that the director develops and then discusses with the trustees. And then the instrument, basically folks have about a month to complete the instrument and send it back to the chair of the personnel committee. There is also already a process in place where that is delivered confidentially, or not, or the trustees delivered to the personnel committee. The director does not see the feedback. a draft summary of the feedback will be developed by the Personnel Committee and then sent to the Board of Trustees. And then that gets finalized. And then the first week in January, the trustees begin. In the January trustee meeting, the Board of Trustees and the director discuss the evaluation, and the director then presents the goals for the coming year. So that's what we've mapped out. So I don't know if folks want to talk about the time frame first or give any initial impressions, or they just want to review it and send feedback to the committee. So we're talking about the time frames right now.
I did just have a question. You had mentioned, Charmaine, that you want to make it something that happens annually. What was the policy in the past? If not annually?
I don't think Jeff's, I don't know if Mark is still on the line here, but I don't think Jeff has had an evaluation for at least a year and a half or two. I think it was more, I don't want to say it's more haphazard, but it was not annual. Is that correct, Jeff? Or it's personnel, anyone who can speak to that.
How about less
Yeah, this
structured?
is Mark. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, but
We can.
it was done, I would say sporadically, and the time period, it wasn't done on a regular basis. It was kind of like, I think sometimes boards happened like twice. So it wasn't like a routine thing that happened, and we were trying to make it a more routine event.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, I know I've been here this is my third year. We've done it once. But yeah, so I just wondered. Thank you.
Yeah. And I've worked on it a couple times. I feel like one of the pieces, I think the time frame is good. I think presenting goals for the coming year is a really strong thing to do, and because it feels like the timing seems to be a little off and weird, and so I think trying to formalize it and making it clear, and sticking to the time frame would be all good things to do.
Okay. I have a question. Just a question. Is the plan to conduct his evaluation during a board meeting?
No, I think we'd have to figure out the executive session or something, but not in public, no.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, well, that's okay. Okay.
And given, Mary, that you're, I believe, are not running for a re-election, is that correct?
Yes.
So the president or vice president or someone from the committee would sit with you so you could give some feedback, given your experience as a trustee with Jeff. So we don't want to lose that valuable experience.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so overall, you have a month to just revisit the time frame. If you have comments or tweaks or suggestions, please send them to Mark and me and Jeff, and we can make any tweaks that we receive. Then you have the actual instrument, which is similar but not the same as the one that was used previously. What we did was we changed one of the scale ratings, the U, the text for the under the U, and we also under each category inserted a brief paragraph. For example, under visionary leadership, organizational planning, each of the categories has a brief paragraph to kind of introduce what that's about. We did add visionary leadership as a category, and then you have the different summary paragraphs. And then mostly the other major change was we broke out some of the administrative things and made a category management and administration, and then put budget and resource management as we made that a major category, and then put subcategories underneath that. And then we have human resources and things like that. Those became subcategories under general management, I believe. I'm looking at management and administration, and we broke out the final categories: Board of Trustees, communication and relations. Jeff felt like that's a major part of his job, so we didn't want that to get. It's the last thing. I don't know what page numbers on. I'm sorry. Policy and governance. Right after that, Jeff is a major category. Broke that out. The director's relationship with the Board of Trustees. Jeff felt that should be a major category, not kind of blended in with anything else. So we made that a category in and of itself. So we kind of moved a few things around. We played with a bit of language, and we included visionary leadership and some additional guiding principles in the summary paragraphs. That's basically it. So you have a month to review that, but if anyone has any general comments, if they were able to look at it before, please let us know. I can take some notes, or you can please email us any proposed changes or concerns or questions, and we'll try to finalize it by the next meeting.
Thank you for your good work on that, Charmaine. That's great.
It's a committee effort. You're welcome. Thank you. And then Mark is we did divvy up some of the responsibilities where I took the feedback of Jeff and Mark and kind of created this instrument. I know Mark is taking some time to develop those staff questions that he will draft for the board. So we're working, I think, well as a committee, and people are doing some of the subtasks, but thank you.
Great.
So if you have ideas on the time frame or the instrument, please get those to us by the end of May, so that by I'm going to say May, however many days in May, I think it's 31, May 31st, so that we can finalize the instrument, because and the time frame is supposed to be presented at the June meeting for final adoption by the board. In the minutes, could we just say that the deadline for any feedback on the time frame of the instrument is May 31st? Okay,
Got it.
capture that in the minutes, please. Thank you.
Okey doke. So the next order of business is chairs.
So
Jeff.
chairs, I feel ridiculous talking about chairs, but here we go. Okay, so I don't know how many of you remember the fully wooden chairs that the library has, kind of a little U-shaped divot in the middle. Not exclusively, but widely hated by the public, including Lisa. So I have been on a campaign of every year or so buying another 10 or 15-ish chairs and slowly replacing them throughout the library. That was on hiatus during the pandemic. I have to be honest, I was not focused on chairs. And in the meantime, the company that on state contract that we've been buying our chairs from no longer makes our model of chair, which it's like my China pattern for my wedding, inevitability that they're going to end that pattern. So what I have is the manufacturer said we have a similar chair. Obviously, looking at the chair on the screen, it's a little bit squarer, where our chair is a little bit more round, but it does have the same fabric. I don't know. And they said, we don't know how long this fabric's going to be around. And chairs are, wood is expensive, and so are chairs. And so here's a quote for 20 chairs without arms, 10 chairs with arms. This goes back to Joyce Becker, absolutely saying some of these chairs need to have arms. Very important. So we always buy chairs with arms. And I could either bring out the wooden chairs that everybody hates and intersperse them with what we have in the library, because we have need, as people are returning to the library, we have need for more seating in the library. And intersperse them, we could bring out the wooden chairs in the thought that at some point in the future, there's going to be a furniture overhaul and redesign. Or we can order $18,000 worth of chairs and try to bring us up to have enough chairs without needing to bring back the wooden chairs. And that is including the study rooms, the meeting rooms, which is where a lot of the nice cushion chairs have gone to. Traditionally, those have been the wooden chairs in the meeting rooms. So I wish I was 100% on this. Usually I come to you and say, this is what we should do. I'm kind of two minds about this, but if we're going to buy chairs that match the fabric that we've got and are stylistically at least similar to what we have, these are the chairs. And they are in New York State contract. Thoughts?
So theoretically, if a couple of years down the road, we were buying a whole bunch of new furniture, if we did some renovations,
Yep.
we'd have 30 new chairs that I would presume we could find a zone that these could be used in. We could say they're for conference rooms, or, it wouldn't have to be like mixy matchy, terrible looking.
Right.
You could find spaces to use these, I think. Don't you?
I agree. Yes. And so actually some of our nice comfy chairs have bled into the boardroom or bled into the community room. And so you're right on it. I was thinking that we would isolate these and have them, in certain places and try to bring back the ones to the sort of the main part of the library.
I had a similar kind of thought, again, potential painting and things matching, so.
Yep.
If we choose these, I would suggest choosing the most neutral looking thing, because you just don't want to have somehow the library become painted and now we're dealing with just clash. I don't care where they go. And the labor cost, is that a set fee?
It is absolutely set under New York State contract. This is the sort of installation, delivery, receiving from the manufacturer, and sort of, yeah, at 18%. That is a non. Yep.
To install.
Yes,
There.
the chairs used to be at price. I mean, that's the other thing. So wood is more expensive. These chairs, I got. It needs to be able to stand up to being literally torture tested, much more than a household chair. But yeah, so this is my inflation shock.
Do you have any idea when they're saying they're going to be delivered? Because I'm willing to bet it's not going to be soon.
No, I don't have that though. I didn't get the impression that it was super long. In any case, this is well outside my authorization limit, and
I would just say that I would agree with Joyce Becker that we should have arms on the chairs, especially for those that might have hip problems or, yeah.
You got it.
So that's a good idea.
Yeah, we try to mixy matchy, you know, so and even in any particular place in the library, there are mixes of both of those chairs available.
Great. So these chairs are being purchased on state contract.
Yes.
So presumably the price per unit is less than if we went out to the open market.
Yes.
Okay. World has changed.
Right. I mean, so
I'm just wondering, like, is there only one state contract to look at? Is this the only place we could look at? Did we do any kind of looking around?
So the reason we looked here was because these were the folks when we contacted them that had the fabric that matches the chairs that we have currently. So if we are unconcerned and we want to try to go with a different zone and try to find a completely different chair, we can pursue that as well. We were trying to find something that was going to be at least stylistically similar, with a similar wood tone and the same fabric, which is a little, I mean, you can see it's this momentum knack here. This is the fabric that we have on the chairs. It looks different in person, but that's what it is. And you were trying to, this was the manufacturer that had that fabric. If that's less of an issue, if we want to try to find, you know, different chairs that can go someplace else, we can certainly do that and talk to some other manufacturers.
Jeff, I would say unless you need these immediately, I 500. I'm not sure. I haven't bought furniture like this for a while, but I'd be interested to see if there's something that's less than $500 a chair, if that's the chair.
Okay. Well, and
I'm not sure what other trustees feel like, if people bought furniture or have a better sense of if that's a fair price.
I just think it's that everything has changed. I just think we should do some looking around. I agree with Charmaine's point that at this point, maybe neutral is better. And, you know, think about, you know, who knows? You might talk to somebody and they've got 30 chairs that are like 50% off or something. I don't know. I think we should do some looking.
Okay. We'll poke around a little bit more and see if we can find a different chair that.
Yeah,
you know.
I do want to mention that we looked at Dimco and the library store, and yeah, we looked at any chairs that were already fabricated, or you know, the choices were only like blue or tan or something. So any custom chair that you're creating that includes this matching fabric, you know, these were the ranges that we were looking for. But we did look at pre-made chairs designed specifically for libraries.
Okay, thank you.
So Mary, do you think that satisfies your need for looking there, or you think there still needs to be more?
I don't want to be the driver of this decision. That's what I think.
Well, I mean,
What
I
do
think,
other people think?
well, listen, I'm already ambivalent. So if you would be more comfortable with me going back and look at, listen, this is shocking to me too. So if you would like me to go back and poke around and see some other options that aren't going to be as similar, but if these were exactly the same chair, I would have a very different ask for you right now. So we'll go back and take a poke around and we'll present those couple options for you. There's no emergency on this. I probably will bring out the wooden chairs, which hurts my heart a little bit, but we'll go ahead and do that. Bring some of those out. We just need some more chairs back, and we'll take a little bit more time to
Yeah, and I think the feedback from when you bring them out could also help drive our decision. You know, if
Oh, I know what the feedback's going to be.
okay, well, okay.
but we'll, I just, but I get you, just a little sense of urgency or something on that. So we'll take a peek at that. I'll email those out to you.
And Jeff, you may want brand new chairs, but I do know the district renovated its high school library. And I am assuming that there's brand new furniture in there. So it may be just worth a call over to them to say, what happened to the other chairs and what kind of condition? Not that we want used chairs, but again, kind of piggybacking over that there may be a renovation of the library within the next X number of years. Do we want to wait that long? And if this is an immediate need, what should we be considering? I just want to know if there's a cheaper chair. If this is it, then I'm willing to come back and just consider this model. But also, they said I know there could be some potentially good used furniture. I'm not sure if you'd want to consider that or not.
Okay, I'll take a peek and we'll circle back on this next month.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okie doke. So next order of business is naming rights on the makerspace.
Oh, yes. Okay. So this is just me talking. So Joe Storch, who, he and his family are the funders behind the Krakauer Storch Fund, which funds technology, new technology in the library, starting originally with the 3D printer and the makerspace, but also expanding into library things and the studio makerspace as well. Was committed to continuing to give to the library in a similar amount. They've given, have seen given to us about $25,000 over the past not quite 10 years, maybe 8 years total since this has been going on. And they're interested in committing a similar amount going forward. And one of the things that there was an interest expressed in potentially the naming rights to the studio makerspace, and what would be the amount of money that we felt was inappropriate. And, when he talked to me about that, I said, this is not a decision for me. This is something I need to talk to the trustees about. Did talk briefly about it with Mark and Michelle at our meeting. And we decided that this really needed to have a more comprehensive discussion here. Again, it might not be tonight, but, whether given the potentiality of a capital project, what would the numbers be on things like the meeting rooms and or the community room or the boardroom or the story hour room if people were interested in the naming rights to those spaces? So this is nothing that we solicit. As a library, we don't actively seek to fundraise, but these kind of questions do come up time to time, and certainly within the purview of the board to decide, what the amount of the donation would be, depending on the space. This is, sort of an expansion of the memorial benches, which I just got a call this week. Lots of people, I wish I had more space for benches, because even at the then price of $1,500 and maybe at the now price of $3,000 or whatever those would be, there would still be people interested in, donating those benches. I don't have any more space currently in the library to be throwing pads down and putting a bench in. So there is some desire for this. This is the first time in my experience, have had this question sort of this magnitude.
Okay, so the question is twofold. Do we want to do this? And then the second question is, right, the amounts you would attach to each item or room.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly boards in the past, probably think it's been a long time since the library's legacy brochure went out, a long time ago, or 20 years maybe ago. This has been discussed before, it just never, came to fruition. And there certainly were some numbers bandied around at that time, So I guess yeah, right. Is this something we're interested in pursuing? Is it, and then how would we go about setting those?
I'm wondering if this topic might be something that would, you could get some input from your architect once you have them. It seems like that may be, they could give you ideas of the type of things that you could think about attaching a value to. I mean, there's no outside benches, but there's probably things inside the library that they would know, that they could give us some comparative suggestions. I don't know. Just
Right.
How about chairs?
Well, we've certainly done, yeah, how about chairs? Thanks, Tanya.
I was thinking about,
We've certainly had furniture. That's something that I've done plenty of. Shelving, furniture, the chess table outside, the Ian Bogle patio, these sorts of things do pop up from time to time. This was just a larger ask, and there are a limited number of rooms that would be amenable to that. So how should we go about deciding this is my question.
I know for me, I would need some time to think personally and then have engaging discussion with the trustees whether we should do it at all. That's the first question. I'm glad Michelle kind of separated the two of them out, and then we can talk about, what's the benchmark or what's the cutoff point or whatever. But I'm kind of just considering it right now, and I'm not sure. I want to have more discussion about whether or not there is the option to basically purchase, it sounds like, Jeff, or give a donation enough, an amount great enough to warrant a name or something to go up on our room. And I just need a whole lot more time to think about that.
Yeah, great. And yeah, I don't think this is a burning Sherry, did you have a thing?
I was just going to say, what do other libraries do?
Well, the William K. Sanford Library exists, right? So,
Right.
I think there are the Arvilla E. Diver Library of Schaghticoke exists. So I think there are certainly precedents for things like this. I think there's an amount of money that if someone were to approach us, I think we could rename the whole library. $50 million comes to mind. There's amounts that would move almost any reasonable person to accept something like that. But I think it does bear further thought. This is nothing I'm trying to spring on you. It just was a novel question that I had not really had before, but a genuine and from a place of a person who has a sustained and prolonged giving to the library. And so I thought it brooked a further discussion.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's certainly, understandable why they would ask that question in terms of their support of the technology initiatives in the library over these past years. But, there is some part of me, just as a knee jerk, that I feel like, naming all sorts of things in the library kind of gets a little silly at some point. So, but that's just like off the top of my head. But
no, I agree with you. I agree. I agree with those points. The only other thing that I'm thinking of is when I go to the Y and I see certain rooms. I think that's tastefully done. And you're right, it's not down to the small, I agree with you. I don't want to see plaques all over the place, every 3 feet, a plaque. We don't want that. That's what's nice about the benches outside. They're spread out. But yeah, good point, Lisa.
Great. Well, I really appreciate everybody thinking about this and talking about it. We'll circle back on it again, but let me know if you have thoughts. In the meantime, I'm happy to coordinate that discussion.
If it gets put on for old business for next month or so, Jeff, if you find any data or other information that might be helpful in our reflection and discussion, please send it along.
Will do.
All right, next on our agenda is old business, the borrowing policy on page 38 and 39.
I sent Jeff a note. I think
Yep.
those highlighted text was me highlighting the different nouns we were using. And I think Mark and I both agree that they should be standardized, but so the highlights, I think, are just stuck still there from my previous, unless someone else has who's doing the revision markup of this thinks otherwise. I think those are left over from my comments saying we're using all these different words. Should we just use one? Is that correct, Jeff? That the
Yes.
highlights just never got taken off? Okay.
Yep. So it's just a question of what do we call these folks? Patrons, users, borrowers, cardholders?
I like patron. Are we really choosing?
I think so.
Yeah. One vote for patron.
I don't care what noun is used. I just said we can't be flinging around so many of them. That's all. So I really don't have any particular preference. I was just noting that we were using several and it may be confusing to people.
No, I agree. Should be the same throughout.
So given that, with the with that acknowledged, there are some changes about the maximum fine. The limit to where we would suspend someone's card here on page 39, moving that from $5 total to $10, just moving that up from 5 to 10 before a card is suspended, and some clarification of what types of items go for what periods of time, and specifically mentioning the fines that we had talked about for interlibrary loan, minimum fine, and then just it's self-evident, but it's also important that we mention that electronic materials are not subject to fines or replacement costs, right? They're not losable or damageable. So we'll just mention that. And we don't have the level of control of the checkout limits and the time frame. Some of that is under the control of a sort of consortial decision through Upper Hudson, and some of those things are decided at the platform level by the contract we enter into with a vendor. So we don't have the same level of control that we have over our physical items for those. So just that statement acknowledges that.
Jeff, I just wanted to ask, because I've wondered it for a while. What defines a new book, DVD? Like, is there a time period?
There is, though I'm going to leave some fuzzy edges on that time. So new is traditionally considered to be newer than 6 months, but it's new and popular because sometimes there's an item that will stay new longer than that if it never returns to the library to sit there because it's still so popular. But Catherine can, it's not going to be, on the 6 month day, but just about that time, it's time to pull those items and move them to the regular collection. And there are some items that we buy new that don't go to the new shelf. For instance, if I got a new ARCO test guide for, some civil service exam, we're going to put that right to the regular collection. It doesn't need to go new because it's not, serendipitous finding of those kind of things aren't going to.
And I maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like libraries are not consistent about how they define that. So if you happen to get something from another library, what they're labeling as new is maybe not what we're labeling as new. So
correct. I mean, you can imagine a library that doesn't get very many new items might keep their things new for a year or longer, just to highlight them to people who come into the library, just to make sure that there's things on the new bookshelf. And we do that. We address that differently. We address that by making sure some items are not requestable, so they go right on the new shelf. So there's a sprinkling of items in there that are desirable. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Jeff, the fines on museum passes?
Yep.
Has that always been $5 a day?
Yes.
And do we rack up a lot of fines on museum passes?
It's not what they're for. It's supposed to be to encourage rapid return of them. That's they are of everything the most timely item, the most time sensitive item, because there are so few of them, and you want them. We need them back quickly. We don't want people to keep them out for very long.
Gotcha. Okay, and the loan period is pretty short, but
It is.
I guess we see a lot of turnaround on those.
We do. I mean, that's just it. If we wouldn't want someone to check out, Popular Museum and keep it for a month. That's not what they're for. They're basically, they should turn around essentially every weekend. Does this make sense? Especially from spring break to fall, we'd like those to turn, once a week, but we even put a shorter loan period on that to bring them back even faster than that. Listen, we put higher fines on things that are the new and shiny things. And I guess museum passes aren't exactly new and shiny, but they are still extremely popular for the size of the collection, and some museums will not sell us more of them. Famously, the Clark Art Institute, they're not available in the same way that I can walk down to the store and buy a book. So there's an intensity to museum passes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so I'll need a motion to accept the amended borrowing policy on pages 38 and 39.
So moved.
Armin, we have a second?
I'll second it
Charmaine?
with the understanding that someone's going to choose a word and stick it in there, right?
Patron is what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in
Thank
favor of patron also.
Okay.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, so we have the building committee.
Okay, so I guess that's me. Roll back up here. So we're gonna talk about the building committee, the process where we are. Harmeet, I don't know if you want to jump in or.
No, go ahead. I think we met with 3 architects.
That's
Right.
that's
So far, I've been impressed with all of them that I've talked to. We're just trying to get schedules to align amongst Charmaine, Mark, Jeff, and myself to make a down select, get everybody's opinions, then bring that down select to the rest of the board. That's all I got.
That's right where we are. Thank you, Harmeet.
That's great progress. Thank you.
Jeff, can I just clarify? Were we going to try to meet with one? I'm trying to remember. Maybe I'm a little lost. I'm on the committee too. Were we trying to schedule time with one final architect, or am I making that up?
No, that we're just trying to meet with ourselves at this point.
Okay, got it.
So,
all right, thank you.
Okay, so the next item then under old business is the fines committee. And on pages 40 through 43, you have the existing overdue fines.
So this is the last question we have sort of settled. We haven't voted yet on an implementation date of July 1, 2021. Keeping the current we just changed the fine threshold to $10 to block accounts. That's changing the policy. Keeping the current 31-day billing period, and then maintaining $1 a day fines on library things and $5 a day fines on museum passes. Some of those things we just passed in the borrowing policy up above. But the last sort of major outstanding question that we haven't come to consensus on yet is waiving, forgiving past overdue fines as we roll into our no late fee, fine free period.
And can you just tell us again what that amount is?
Sure. So the total amount was, and to give some round numbers right now, $20,000 of the total, with about $8,000 of that being active borrowers that you could have some sort of reasonable hope that you were going to recover.
Then I think you sent us some information, but I don't recall what it was, regarding how many card holders we were talking about. And I feel like my reaction at the time, and Catherine sent it to us, was, well, that's not that many people. I think that's.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. Okay.
Where's my phone a friend?
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm just looking up the email so I can give you, so I can go through those numbers again.
Yes.
Well, I believe too, in our prior conversation about this issue, you had mentioned that other libraries that had gone fine free had forgiven.
Yes.
loans.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some of them had. Yeah.
The larger libraries in our area did, as they implement this, mostly just from a for whatever reason, but absolutely including from just sort of a practical standpoint. As well, I sent information about Onondaga Public Library, who just also went fine free, and they forgave $280,000 in back fines. Now it's a bigger place than Bethlehem, but just to frame the conversation,
That's a lot.
it's a lot. From a library with not our resources. So.
Right.
I'll throw in my, well, you're going to get my opinion whether you want it or not. This is the marketing bang of this. I think if we're going to, we're clearly have decided to move forward with this. If we're going to do it and to not waive those past fines leaves a golden opportunity to really market this and talk, change the conversation with our public as we move forward into just a different way of doing business.
And they would be waived the same day that the fine free goes into effect.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to get weird, like June. It's going to get weird to have those conversations at the desk with people the more as they start to get the footnotes. I mean, some people are aware from this, clearly, you have members of the public who are aware, and for public comment, it's not a secret. But as we really start to ramp up the marketing of this in the footnotes that will come out, halfway in June, I think it's going to be a difficult conversation to have to say about fines with somebody, knowing that on July 1, it's going to be a different paradigm.
Do you think it will be different for the next few months and difficult for staff at the desk if somebody reaches a limit, they have fines outstanding and so they can't use their card or something? Do you think people will be argumentative with the librarians about, well, it's going to be free in 2 months anyway, why are you holding me up, or that kind of reaction?
Yeah, I hope that's not it. I think it might well be more along the lines of, I have a bunch of overdue fines on this pile of kids' books, and there's $15. I've returned everything, but I'll just wait till July.
We have a situation right now where someone came in and they have $130 of fines, and it is mostly children's books. And it's like, why don't you see where the board is on making this decision? I'd hate to take $130 of your money today and then there be a decision to waive things, or, you just don't use the library for a few months and we'll see where we go there. Or, we have discretion. We could waive fines, make it $60. There is some question that it will be nice to know what, your final determination is.
Okay, so
this is Mark. Can I weigh in on? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So that I just want to make sure that if we do waive the fines, we do have an active signage or something people can donate to their friends. Like, the example that somebody used about $130. Maybe she wants to, there's some send $20 to their friends or something. Or, if we have, it's not mandatory, but we ought to give people an option to free will, some donation somewhere. And I think their friends is probably the best way to do it.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, they have a mechanism and we can make that work.
Okay, but is that from today forward, or something that we would start instituting July 1?
Yeah, I think that would go.
I think the rules are the rules until July 1, and then they're new rules. It happens any big rule change, any law or whatever. The rules are the rules until the effective date of the next change. So, people should just wait, honestly. And maybe they can make a contribution to friends.
Okay, I had a little bit of a hard time hearing that.
Yep. So I just said Mark's just saying the rules are the rules until the day change. Anytime you have a big change like this, laws change. There's a one day where the interface does get weird, but it's not impossible. Just the rules are the rules that they are beforehand, and then the day after they'll be different. I'm
Okay,
imagining
actually,
from a
that's- Go ahead.
From a practical standpoint, the waiving of these fines, should the board vote to do that, will have to happen at some point before July 1st. So sometime in the ramp up to July 1, they'll have to just declare a date and work with Upper Hudson to get that done.
Okay, so that's, I was going to make a very similar point then to what Mark has said when Catherine mentioned saying to a patron, well, just wait a couple months because the board decided this and you won't have to pay if you just ignore this and leave and whatever. I agree with Mark that the rules are what they are until they aren't. I'm not so sure we should be actively telling patrons, don't do what you're supposed to be doing right now because the rule is going to change. Clearly, we're putting out enough information that people can educate themselves on what the fine policy is. That's just my take.
I am in agreement with that, and I just hope it doesn't become burdensome for the staff. But I do think the rules are the rules until they change July 1 or whatever, 10 days before, 5 days before. I think a consistent response like that is good.
I could go along with that, but Jeff, I want to make sure I'm not sure I fully understand what you said.
Okay.
In terms of your recommendation, I think I can infer or glean it, but can you say more about what you're recommending and why?
Right. So I'm recommending, as part of our package of this overall large change, one of the aspects of that be not just that starting on July 1 and going forward, that we stop charging overdue fines for those items that are then returned July 1 and after that, but also at the same time, waive the fines that have been accrued up until July 1 at whatever reasonable period is, before July 1st, and waive those out too for people. So they're not, if we're going to be moving forward in this way, there's absolutely no reason from my perspective not to be waiving them in the other direction as well. But that's a decision because it involves money. It's a decision that has to go to the trustees, and it is an important decision. I just was weighing in on the marketing of this. I think that's a lot of the bang of the buck. If our goal is to get people to come back to the library, with absolutely my goal, to get people to come to the library and to see the benefit that other libraries that have gone fine free have experienced, in where people have re-engaged with the library and returning items that are long overdue because they imagined for some reason that the fines just accrue forever and they've got $1 million of fines on their item. There's an opportunity for people who don't understand how that mechanism works to come back to the library and re-engage with us. I want all of these, the people who accrue fines are not bad people. They have just accrued a fine, and we want them back in the library and re-engaging with the library. And it's the one of the big benefits of moving forward in a fine-free way, or no late fee way, is to do that at the same time.
I would say when you're describing that, it is really important to say late fee, because you're talking about waiving only those, not damage, loss.
Nope.
Right.
Correct. So yes, thank you. And again, and I know there is, listen, if we have questions about that, then I guarantee our public will have questions about that, but you're right. Damaged items, lost items, that's not what we're talking about. And if you've kept something overdue, what we're saying is we're not going to be punitively, we're not going to be punishing you for that. You're just going to bring it back to us. That's what we care about. But if you damage a book or lose a book, then that resource needs to be paid for.
Sure, because you're going to replace it. I mean, basically, it's like a
right.
replacement fee, right?
Right. It's yours.
So Jeff, Lisa, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't have a problem with waiving the late fees, the full amount of the late fees. But anything that's owing for other items, overdue museum passes or whatever, all of those things that we're still going to be charging a fine for, that does not go away.
I agree with what Lisa has said. I have a question though about, Jeff, are you advocating that we advertise now that everything or the late fees will disappear July 1?
No, no. So it just as part of our marketing of this, and the marketing, I think we've agreed, is going to start. Really, the push is going to start in the footnotes. That is the July, August footnotes. So that's the footnotes that comes out at the end of June. Kristen could give you a reasonable facsimile of the exact date of that, but it's just basically that latter part of June, but before July 1st. Like I said, it's not a secret. People are aware that we're talking about this, but the marketing push would then happen at that June is our time frame for beginning this discussion, and we have to have the rules cemented so that when we talk to the public, we engage with them in that marketing piece. We have to make sure we know, and that requires us to know enough of ahead of time. The footnotes deadline for the July, August footnotes will be X period in May that Kristen will chime in with. So it's leaving us not very much time to make this decision and be able to market this effectively for July.
Deadline is the second week in May.
Right. So it's easier. Like, let's get this decided now rather than at the May board meeting. We've got enough going on with the budget at the May board meeting because that's going to be a big, long meeting anyway when we're talking about the budget. And I don't want to be worried about the footnotes deadline and where does that fall vis-a-vis the May board meeting. So it just seems like this is a decision that we can make. I don't know that there's more magical information that's going to make it easier for us to make a decision on this.
Okay, so we need a vote. Are there any other questions?
Not a question,
Yeah,
but go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. I'm driving, but
You can't see us.
this is right. This is for the material that have already come back to the library that people owe money on in the past. Right. So the material's already back. We've already got the material in.
Yes.
And then, right. Okay. So that we would say to the public that effective whatever, end of June, July, whatever works from a computer system point of view, I agree it cannot be effective one day, that going forward, you have no fines for material or no fines for materials that you owe us money for that's already back in, and there's no late fees going forward except for museum passes, library things, and
interlibrary loan.
Interlibrary loan. So in the vast majority of cases, you have no late fees moving forward. And then what we're giving up then is the possible, very, very unlikely amount that we would collect some of that $8,000, for the budget, right?
Yeah, we would collect. Sorry, I cutting out a little bit, Mark, there, but yes, you're correct. We would be collecting some portion of that, but I guarantee you it's not 100% of that in the budget. Right. We never collect all the fines. Yeah.
Right. Okay, and if we voted so that's what we voted to waive the outstanding fees. If we don't vote for that, then it's a weird message. It says basically books taken out after July 1, vast majority of them, there's no late fees. However, if you owe us money in the past for your overdue fees in the past, you still owe us that money. That's kind of a mixed message in my mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure it's clear. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I was going to say one of the things that I think would help people to better understand, particularly the waiving part of it, is to give perhaps an example of, I have fines due for overdue fines, an overdue museum pass, or a library of things, or a damaged book, what's being waived, and then spell it out exactly how it would work out, because I don't think people always personalize policies to their own example. So I think sometimes giving them kind of a walk them through the process sometimes helps people to understand that a little better.
Agreed.
Is toward that point, which I think that's a good point, Lisa. Is there any way that, I go into my account online and I can see, oh, I've got 60 cents in fines, and I go in and I see, oh, what book was it that I didn't return? Is there a way that when people go in the future, they'd say, well, these are supposed to be waived? Could there be a message that says, I don't know what the wording is, but this is not something that gets waived. This is a library of things, or this is a category 1 book, or I don't know, whatever. But could there be a message that explains why they still have something outstanding?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will look into it.
Okay. Other than that, I'm ready to say yes to waiving the existing, when we get to that point in July or late June, waiving, just forgiving them, the outstanding ones, and going forward clean and positive.
Okay, so again, before we take a vote, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I don't see any. All right, so I'll need to motion to waive the existing overdue fines.
And
it's on page 40 to 43. Go ahead.
Yep. And if I could just add a few things to that, the waiving of the existing overdue fines, the implementation date for the whole program for July 1st, and keeping the 31-day billing period. Sorry about those things that we really had come to consensus last month, but we didn't vote on them.
Okay.
So those three
I
things.
just have a quick, Michelle, as you were reading that, so are you saying waiving any existing fine? Is that as of July 1st, or is it like as of the date of the vote? I guess with the more we talk, I'm losing track of things, but are you saying waiving any outstanding fine as of July 1st, or?
Well, as Jeff said, the date is July 1st, but they have to, for administrative purposes, it has to start a little bit earlier. And you don't have an exact date on that, is that?
I don't. We're gonna be working with Upper Hudson, and I need to give us a little bit of time to get that done ahead of time. And I don't think trying to cram that all into one day is necessarily a good idea. But practically speaking, July 1 or the time frame running up into July 1 for the implementation date, and it's existing overdue fines, waiving existing overdue fines.
Okay, does that answer your question, Charmaine? Okay, good.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Lisa. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, great.
Thank you.
And any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
So our next item is future business.
Okay, so though I have one item to bring up that was not able to make it to the agenda. This is a little bit sensitive, but I am requesting, I don't know what you guys are looking at now. Let me stop my share here. Stop share. Okay, sorry. Now you're looking at me? Okay. I have a patron anyway, let me just start. We had an incident in the hallway involving 2 minors, one of whom was a library volunteer. A harassment situation occurred over 2 days last week on Wednesday and Friday. And I investigated this, checked the video cameras, corroborated the story that was told to us by the library volunteer very cohesively. And I approached the school district to sort of to help me out. I got some information, And I would like to pursue the banning of this particular patron until September 15th due to the aggressive and increasing nature of and continuing nature of this harassment. So
Jeff, why September 15th?
Hmm?
Why September 15th?
September 15th gets us through the summer. You know, I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to be overly burdensome, but at the same time, because it is a sexual harassment situation, the library takes that extremely seriously, as you know, under our sexual harassment policy, and we are working towards defining that we haven't ever had anything exactly similar to this. So I would like to ban this particular teen patron until September 15th, and then I will inform them and their parents of that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Both because, familiarity with the school district, public institution, and also public universities. Do you have to give someone notice and an opportunity to be heard before you do that?
I have sent a letter to the parents. The timing, I've sent the letter to the parents, and they can absolutely come back and appeal this again to the trustees. So we would have a judicial. Should that want to be appealed, it could be appealed in a judicial way. It would be held in public at the May board meeting, and we could do it at that time.
I'm not sure it has to be in public, but so I'm fine granting you that authority, but I'm almost positive they have to be given notice, or you notify the parent, or some procedure where they could come before you.
They can, yes, and they can absolutely
before you assess what we would consider a sanction. But I could be wrong, but this is my specialty at a public university, and I know that at the district, I believe, unless it's an imminent danger where you can interimly remove someone, for a public institution, there should be no before a sanction is implemented. And then you can have an appeal process after. Let's say you sanction and say, okay, I've heard your side. Let's say, if someone decides not to show up, they waive that. But if you assess a penalty based on what you've heard, that person can always appeal to the board. But that's just my 2 cents based on this is what I used to do.
Okay, so in that case, it may well be it just for the timing, because this mostly went down on last Friday, and my chance to notify, I don't have very long, so we may have to come back for a special board meeting for that, because I'm not interested in waiting a full month to
either that. See, I don't think you need to. If there is I guess I should look at the patron.
Right, I have the ability to ban somebody for.
So you go ahead with that, but you might also want to either check with Upper Hudson or with an attorney to say, do I need to do that? And go ahead and do it. And then if you assess a penalty after hearing the side, go ahead and do that in writing, and then outline an appeal process. And then that's when the board gets involved. That's as I understand it, but I've never done this with a library, but my understanding of any kind of judicial type of things in public institution is, I believe, I don't know if it pertains to libraries, but in a university and public school setting, it is required.
Okay, well, I'll bring that back. I have contacted the parents. That letter is out the door. So when I hear back, I'll keep you all informed of that.
Wait, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
We have banned patrons before.
Yep.
We have banned minors before. It was not a sexual harassment situation, but we banned them. We notified the parents. What was our process for that?
That was usually I have a little bit more time to be able to let them know that they can appeal. This is going to be heard at this date at a board meeting, and then they can come and discuss it should they want to at the board meeting. And we've never had anybody take us up on that, but that is available to them.
Okay, is that process outlined in our policies?
It is.
It is. Okay, so, okay.
So I guess maybe I need to look at the policy again, or at least check, Jeff, because
I don't
maybe you don't need to grant a hearing. Again, I've never done this in a library
Right.
context, but you've notified the parents, but I'm not sure if you're required to offer a hearing before you implement it. But maybe if the policy's already been approved by the board of trustees, I guess you can go by that.
Right. The trustees are the only one that can impose a ban longer than the day that I'm allowed to ban somebody for that individual day. So the trustees do that. So I have to contact them.
I would suggest we, as trustees, we could vote to ban the individual. If the parents want to pursue it and come back to us and talk to us as a board, we could certainly hear them to remove the ban.
Do you have a copy of the patron policy, Jeff, that you can put up and screen share with us?
Sure. Give me a sec.
Just kind of refresh my memory. See what it says. I think didn't we just review that one?
Well, the patron conduct policy, we review it all the time. Yep. So give me a second. That's not what I need. That is unhelpful.
While you're looking, I'll
Yep,
just point
thank
out
you.
that, from the information that you sent us earlier by email on this particular issue, it mentioned that there were several individuals, that it was a group of people that were doing the harassing, not just one.
Yep.
So we're only looking at the one individual because that's the only one?
Yeah, we have I have information on all of them. The others were around, but not necessarily the primary instigator of the behavior. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
we have identified that one.
There's a degree of fault, and this one individual is at a higher degree of fault.
Correct.
Okay.
So in here,
Just scroll through, Jeff, and we can maybe quickly review, okay.
so any patron not abiding by these or other rules or the regulations of the library may be asked to leave library premises. Repeat offenders may be denied library privileges by the Board of Trustees on recommendation of the library director. That's But absolutely, the appeal from that is to have this is where every once in a while I talk about the trustees acting, and stop that share, have this judicial role every once in a while where the trustees have to have a hearing and they're welcome to due process.
You're acting based on videos that you saw, or?
Correct. So a direct report of the individual 2 times and the video that corroborated the story of the individual person.
Okay.
And I think in the past, when we've banned people, it was because of damaging, library premises and not really on the issue of sexual harassment, which, is a slightly different issue than some of the other issues that have come up in the past. So I wonder if this might make us once again look at that patron policy to make sure that we're covered all the way across the board there.
Right. And it's well outside so the 2 policies that are directly at issue, the patron conduct policy and the sexual harassment, prevention policy. So both copies of both of those policies have been sent to the parents. And this is a very clear violation of the sexual harassment policy.
I'm pretty sure that was the one that we just reviewed and revised.
Yeah, that comes from our attorney. Yeah.
Right.
That policy is available to us in chat. It's been posted up in our chat for our Zoom session if anybody wants to look at that policy.
I'll zoom it out. Yeah,
And
go
I
ahead.
just noticed that the patron conduct policy, it looks like it hasn't been revised since 2016. So maybe that should go up before the policy committee too.
Right. Well, we have the emergency patron conduct policy, which is the gloss on that patron conduct policy, which we have been updating bi-monthly for the past couple years, but mostly focused on the patron conduct as far as COVID prevention measures. The sexual harassment policy does not deal directly with this, other than the library's obligation to protect employees and volunteers, and really everybody who's at the library should be free of sexual harassment.
Jeff, the way these two policies are written, I don't see any requirement that a hearing be held before this person is banned. It seems like we could make it effective immediately based on the director's recommendation, and then give them the opportunity to appeal it if they so choose.
Yep, that was
I
sort of.
concur.
All right, is there any other discussion then before we take a vote? Or do we need a vote, Jeff, on this?
We do.
Yes, yeah, okay. So any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, then I need a motion to. What do we
Yeah,
need?
it's a ban individual because the person's a minor. I don't want to say this name in a
Ban
public
an-
forum.
Okay, so I need a motion to ban an individual from the library premises for a period of
Until September 15th.
until September 15th.
So moved.
Mary, do we have a second? Harmeet? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we should check again on public participation. Do we have any?
Okay, let me go back and look. Lots of people being happy about the New York State budget, but not from our public. No, that's all that I have.
Okay. All right, so then I'll need a motion to convene executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person.
Thank you.
Sorry, so moved.
Okay, Shemaine. Second,
Second.
Harmeet. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Give me a second to kill the live stream.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank
Night,
you.
Bye.
Good night.